How's it going, Song of Ice and Fire fans? It's Grant from Yecats Miniatures here, bringing you the next episode of our Hobby Hangout. And I'm joined today by a very, very special guest, Collin Collar. That's how you say your name, right?
Yeah, Collin Collar. That's right, mate.
Yeah, it always confused me, mate, because with your stats name being Bruce, I was referring to you as Bruce a weekend, and no one could find you to find the army. But how's it going, man? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, mate. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me on here. It's lovely.
No, well, to invite you, mate. You earned it. You won. Obviously, we'll get into it. You won Best Painted at the UK Nationals in 2024. How was that for you?
I'm still shocked, to be fair. I generally thought I was probably the third or fourth best painted on the day, to be honest. So yeah, still a bit of a shock, but overwhelming and really, really nice. Good boost to morale. So yeah, very happy.
That's good. That's good to hear, mate. That's good to hear. So, how was the experience of the whole weekend, though?
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. The atmosphere was awesome. Was chatting to just random people about lists and just generally anything, to be honest. But the weekend itself was tiring. I've never played 7 games in 2 days before, but my brain was absolutely exhausted. But that's my second tournament now, and definitely doing more. But yeah, absolutely love it now. And the weekend was awesome. So
fantastic. Did you stay on site, or did you stay, or did you go home? You're from quite a way away, if I remember rightly.
That's right, mate. Yeah, so I'm from Portsmouth myself and a few others, but we stayed in there's a little caravan park next door, and we rented one of the little chalets out. We brought a barbecue with us, just sat out and had beers and barbecues for the evening.
Oh, men doing man stuff. Winner. Cool. So cheers, come on today, man. Cheers for joining me for this. I can't wait to sort of talk through this with you, because this was there's some armies, like I recently did an interview with Dan G, who played Boltons, and his army, when you walked past it, didn't really jump out at you, but when you got close to it, it was really nice. The actual paint job, I don't know if you managed to see it over the weekend, but
I did.
It was so nice when you got close to it, right?
Yeah, it was very smooth on the painting. I did have a cheeky little look when they was all sat on the table. Yeah, it looked very nice. And I took a photo of it actually and sent it to one of my mates because he loves the Boltons. And I sent a picture and he's just like, "Oh my god, I need to paint like this."
It was good. But the difference between like your army and his army is that your army really jumped out, and it was something that we looked at straight away because of the really nice colours. And although I've got a method to the way I'm going to bring these up to you today, I've left my favourite unit, the one that really brought us into look last, because I really want to talk about that one with you.
Okay.
But yeah, cool. So before we get into it then, so obviously you ran 2 quite, not similar lists, but you ran 2 quite, there wasn't a great variation of units in there. Was that a choice because this was the stuff that you had painted, or was that just knowing the list better than a list that you just put together on a day?
Well, it's a bit of both, to be honest. So you are absolutely right. That's all I had painted because I'm a very, very slow painter, unfortunately. Those other units, basically, that took me 6 months. I don't get a lot of time to hobby. But when I do, I like to just sit down and just have a couple of hours a week. And I normally try and bash something out. That's quite respectable. But and the reason why is when I did the first tournament, it's the first ever tournament I've gone to with an unpainted army, and it cursed me. And I was cursing myself, so I swore that I'd never do it again. So I managed to set myself a target, get some units painted and based, and just turned up with what I had basically painted and made 2 lists out of it. So.
Well, it'll be. I think it's probably only fair that you only get 2 hours to hobby a week, because if this is how good it comes out of only 2 hours a week, I think you'd be out of order if you was doing it as a full-time day job.
Oh yeah, well, that's 2 hours if I'm lucky. But yeah, thank you.
Awesome. So just before we get into looking at it, so what drew you to Baratheons? What made you choose Baratheons over all the other different factions that are in the game?
Well, it was actually a mistake. Originally, I didn't know anything about Song of Ice and Fire. I used to play a lot of AOS, and the lads that in the gaming group, which are called the Brucers, hence why my name's Bruce, they invited me to a campaign it was doing. Didn't know nothing about it. I said, look, I'll turn up for some beers and I'll probably just sit and watch and maybe throw a dice now and then. I turned up and I said, because I knew about the lore and everything like that. And they said, "Oh, we need a Renly player if you're interested." I was like, "Oh, I don't know, it's another game system I'll have to learn and all that." And I thought, look, I'll throw some dice. I'll proxy some models. I like the look of Baratheons anyway. Then my friend got out his Baratheons. I was like, oh, I like the look of these. They look like tanks. They look like they're solid in battle. Look like they can take a punch. Played a couple of proxy games with them. Absolutely fell in love with the game. I was like, oh, this is a bit of me, this. And I looked at the faction itself as Baratheons. I thought, if I'm going to play them, I'll have a look. And then I looked and saw the Rose Knights. And I fell in love with the Rose Knights. I was like, oh, just the look of them and the profile itself, that drew me into the Renly side. Then I started looking at some of the other models and the way they sort of played, and I thought, oh, these are epic units. They just move up and take a slap to the face and keep going. And it sort of drew to my play style as well, because I'm I've only been playing for about a year now. It's quite short that I've been playing, but it sort of drew me to it. And when I fell in love with the Rose Knights, I was like, oh, this is my faction, I think. So I got very lucky. I just got randomly given it, to be honest, just to play in a campaign. So, and now certainly wouldn't change it.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the questions I was going to ask you today is that your army is when we get through start getting through these units, is that you've gone for a very Tyrell-esque, Renly styled Baratheon faction. So I'm guessing that you mentioned there that your friend said you needed a Renly player. So are you strictly a Renly player?
I am. I am at the moment. Loyalty stays loyal. I did think about possibly going into the Stannis side, but I think as we was talking on the at the tournament, I'm sort of drawn to the Greyjoys at the moment. I just need to convince the wife now that I do need a second army. It would make sense financially to go towards Stannis. Especially when I've got both units that can play both sides, which is, again, as we talk about it, it'd be through the paint scheme. But yeah, I do like to be loyal to the Tyrell side.
Okay, well, let's get stuck in some of the painting stuff then. And so up on screen, I'm going to put your Baratheon Wardens. Now, this is obviously the main 5-point unit of the Baratheon army. Was this the first unit you painted to get a sort of a feel for the colour schemes?
No, it was actually the Rose Knights. I sort of I love the colour yellow on an army. Strangely enough, I was like, oh, with the Baratheons, that attracted me to it as well. Was the paint scheme? I thought a nice bright yellow to start me off would be nice. I haven't got a yellow army. Always wanted one. My favourite colour is green. And then I looked at the Rose Knights and I thought, oh, Tyrell's green. It needs to be green. So I started painting one model, got a feel for it, and I was like, that's what kicked it off. But these were my actual second unit that I ever painted, just to get a feel for it.
So obviously, when we look at these guys, these are predominantly metal, right? So
yeah.
This obviously is a massive feature of Baratheon, and it's what I really like about the Baratheon Wardens. They look like just armored personnel carriers, don't they? These looks like they're all inside tanks. How do you paint your metals? Is that a Games Workshop paints? And then have you chosen to go for a dark metal to just to make them look a little bit more grim darkish?
Yeah, so it's all GW and Citadel paints. I haven't painted properly for about a year now. So I sort of came away because I had everything painted, sort of with my AOS armies and my Lord of the Rings armies. And I was like, right, I wanted the grimdark look because I didn't want it to be too overpowering because I wanted the other colours to pop, like the green and that. So I wanted to keep that quite dark. And it was similar because I sprayed all my models black. And I dry brushed the grey over the top with the edge of highlight after. But generally, I wanted to keep it dark, but not to a point where the armor did look black. Just enough so you can shine a little bit.
You've done a great job there, and what I really like on these Baratheons, because this, I don't know if it was a choice by you. I hope it is, because if it is, it's really good. But where you've got the gold details on the armor and the gold masks and stuff, it really sort of plays into that Tyrell feel where they've got that money behind them, that cash flow. So, I mean, even your Baratheon units look like they would sit well inside a Tyrell army.
Cheers, my mate. So you're exactly right there. So when I was looking at it, it looked a bit bland with just all grey. So I wanted to give it some sort of feature and depth. And when I was thinking about it, obviously being technically the richest faction in Westeros, I was like, well, there's got to be some sort of gold element in there to show off their wealth. And with all the little details, I thought, well, I could pick these out and give them little face masks, menacing face masks, but at the same point, still saying, we're still rich, but we're tanky and rich.
And I've got hammers. Awesome, that's great stuff. I mean, this unit really pops to me because it's really nice. You've got really nice, vibrant colours there. You've got that really dark sort of like metallic stuff, and I'm really a massive fan of dark metallics. Like when I started this game, it was with Starks, and that was with dark metallics. And even now, I'm currently painting up a Targaryen armor, so there's not really much metal or armor in that. But I'm looking forward to painting stuff like the Greyjoy Iron Makers and that stuff to make it really dark because it sounds strange, but in a world where there's dragons and giant direwolves and stuff, I mean, I like my stuff to look quite realistic.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm always going to be improving on my my paint, especially now that this is sort of giving me a kick back into it. It's really giving me a boost to actually start painting better as well. But yeah, like you said, I do like the darker look on it and the grim look, really. Because it looks a bit, like you say, it looks a bit more realistic when it's all bright and shiny. These guys are in battle. They're solid units. So having a nice shiny armor sometimes can be a bit, I don't know. Some people's choice, they like it, but I do like the darker armor myself.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I've currently released an interview with Simon Powell who did Lannisters, and his metals were quite brighter. But that for me seems fitting for them because they're going toward highly polished armor. But Baratheons, I quite like them being quite dark and gritty.
Yeah, absolutely. And he done an absolute awesome job on the armor. I did see him.
Awesome. Okay, and we'll get into it again in a minute as well because I'm going to spend some time talking to you about your basing because I think the basing is what really helps to push this army up and above some other potential winners. But we'll get into that in a minute. So that's your Baratheon Wardens, which are obviously great, but we get stuck into some more stuff. You mentioned them a couple of times now, but we're going to just have a little look at your Rose Knights. So I'll put up on screen now. So obviously these guys are predominantly green. You've got, the metallics are there, but they're nowhere near as in your face as they were with the Wardens. This is, a really nice bright green unit, quite clearly a Tyrell unit.
Yeah.
But do you want to sort of talk us through your ideas of painting these and what you wanted to achieve with the colours you've chosen?
Yeah, so I was originally quite scared of doing the cloaks because I haven't done them in so long. And sometimes it could be like a bit of a daunting one where to actually hit the highlights sort of thing. So I started off just painting the one and trying it out. But originally, I used to over sort of use like the shading. But on these ones, when I went back to it, I started just putting it in the recesses more rather than just slapping it over everywhere. Then I originally started putting a like thin layer of moot green over the top for the clothing. And as I put a little bit on, it was still a dark green, which I think I used a Wartstone glow green, and it just didn't really pop. And I was like, well, these guys are sort of bright, vibrant. Rose Knights says it all in the name. I was like, I just need them to jump out a little bit. So then I started painting a little bit more moot green, then a little bit more, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to predominantly make these the moot green color, just to make them really stand out and look, like you said, like a Tyrell unit, where some of the others have got more of the both colours, like within the shields and things like that. These are predominantly green because they are a Tyrell unit.
Cool. So with cloaks then, do you paint the cloak first and then get the paint like the recesses in, or do you pile it up?
So originally I start on the deepest parts of the model first. So sometimes it'd be within all the cloth and things like that. And then when I work on the cloaks, I give it a nice couple of thin coats of the base coat, which was the Warpstone Glow. So I'd really water that down, give it a nice smooth texture.
Mm-hmm.
And then only in the recesses would I then use the non-oil. I wish I watered the non-oil down a bit more, but I'm my world's worst enemy for criticising my own work. But then I used the non-oil all in the recesses. Any mistakes I made, I brought it back up with the Warpstone Glow.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, I just layered over the moot green, and then slowly working with loads of thin brush strokes away from the cloak towards the edges.
Yeah.
Because I only, when I paint for some reason, I only use a small brush or a very small medium brush. And then that's how I got the pop in the cloaks. Just worked away from the centre.
Yeah, it looks great. It really is good. And you say are these based off a black undercoat as well? You said you sprayed them all black, yeah?
Yep. So every one of mine is sprayed black. I will start dabbing into other colours actually, but predominantly these were all sprayed black.
Yeah, I mean, fair play to you, mate. You've managed to get. I mean, yellow is a notoriously hard colour to paint, and you managed to get this yellow looking nice and spicy, even though you've got on a black undercoat. So fair play to you, mate. Hats off.
Coats on it. Yeah, so again, exactly that. I made a bit of a mistake doing it with the black undercoat, but lessons learned. And it has got about 12 thin coats on the yellow to make it pop a bit more.
Yeah.
Again, with that, I didn't use dun oil on the yellow. I went back in with like a I think it was a Rakeland flesh shade with the yellow rather than a non-oil, to give it that sort of brown look, and then came back out with it again with the highlights.
Oh, mate, it looks great, mate. It looks great. It just and the gold is really nice as well. I love you've got like quite a few gold accents on this unit, as you quite rightly say. As a Tyrell unit, you'd expect them to be quite vibrant. What gold is that you're using on these miniatures?
So the gold itself, exactly that. So I wanted it again to be in a Tyrell unit. Really wanted it to stand out. If I remember correctly, I think I started off with a Balthazar. Was it a Balthazar gold? I think it was, if I remember correctly. And then I finished off with, after dabbing it down with some Rakeland fresh shade again, I then brought it back up with Skull Crusher brass. And looking back at it now, I do wish I had another highlight on there, just to break it down a little bit. But yeah, I finished off with the Skull Crusher brass as a final highlight on this one.
Yeah, it looks lovely, mate. It really looks good. And you say this is the first unit you painted for for a couple of years after you.
Yeah, well, it's actually so my Age of Sigmar armies are painted. I've only got two now because I've sold a couple, but actually I think it's about a year and a half ago, I painted some Urukai in my MESBG army, and that was up to dry brush standard, and I think I did about 4 highlights on some of the cloth of white, and that was it. That was just tabletop, get on the table, play it. It wasn't until because originally I was going to just do a dry brush finish on these, just a tabletop stand, and get a dry brush, maybe a highlight or two here and there. And it wasn't until I saw I was playing with Ryan Dell, who has got the Targaryens there. I think he won the best single model.
Yeah, well, the Hedge Knight was lovely.
That's right. Yeah, the Hedge Knight. That's correct. And I looked at his, and I thought I can't put just sort of like a dry brush now. He sort of like set my standard a bit higher, and he sort of influenced me to go a little bit better. And I'm glad he did, because it brought back my painting enthusiasm, if you like, and actually getting some hobby time in.
His art was good as well. We actually, I believe he was on the best painted tables in the top 6, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was, and he's got a lovely painted Dothraki army.
But it's good though. It's good you've got friends that are driving you to sort of push yourself when it comes to painting, because that's what I've always tried to do, is to have try and take inspiration from friends painting, which I think that's a good thing to do, because then you can have sort of like inner rivalries, can't you?
That's exactly that. So now I wind him up saying, "Oh, by the way, I've won best painted, have you?" After seeing his on the table, I looked at mine, and most of mine was not even sprayed black. After the first tournament, I only had one unit of these Rose Knights partly painted, and I was like, I can't do it to myself again. At least get something on them. And then when I saw his, I was like, yeah, do you know what? Fair play. That's something I need to step up my game to. If he's going to do a lovely paint job, then so am I. And I fell in love with the game itself, which then I was like, I just can't justify just doing a dry brush on it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's paid off, mate. So it looks lovely. Working still on the Tyrell stuff. Then let's go into your Riders of Highgarden, because these are another really beautiful unit. I mean, I think we could talk a bit about the base here as well. But first and foremost, so you've gone for like brown horses. Like, is that an effort to sort of unify the unit a little bit more?
Yeah. So, well, this is the first time I've ever painted horses.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So I've never painted horses before. Thank you. So I looked at it and I thought, right, what colours have I got? Because I've done some decorating within the house. So some of my colours are actually packed away in a box. So I looked at it and go, well, what colours can I do? Thinking again about the contrast between the dark and the light, I wanted to keep some relatively dark horses. I thought if I paint white, I don't know if it's going to stand out as much with the green. So I first started with the dark brown and then built my colours up again with small brush strokes, trying to pick out the highlights of the muscles, and roughly working out, which I am getting better on, is where the light would hit more. But yeah, so originally that is the first time I painted a horse, really. But I'm happy with how they turned out.
It should be, mate. They look great. Yeah, they're really good.
Thank you. I painted the Bannerman first, because I wasn't sure on the colours, obviously, and how they were going to pop. When I did look at painting a white horse, I sort of tested it on a different model that had just in a bits box. I just didn't like the two colours together for me, but that's the reason for the dark horses on there, or the darker horses.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think with bright white horses, I think they may look okay, but I think you're taking away so much from the rest of the miniature. I think if you do it that bright, so I think brown was definitely the right choice there. Can we talk a little bit about the basing? Because the basing is what really drew myself and James to it originally, because you've got the really bright colour flowers, and then after that draws you in, you're sort of looking a bit more at the bases and you're seeing the flagstones and stuff and the rocks. Was this an option? Did you sort of plan the army to be like that, or was that something you just had laying around? Is that something that came later? Yeah, I'm really interested to hear how that basing came about. Yeah,
so originally, I mean, I bought the flowers online. Again, my Rose Knights being one of my favourite units. I was thinking, well, instead of just keeping to one colour or a couple of colours here and there, if I get a multiple colour flower, I'll definitely use that. So I managed to search the internet, found some, and then I looked at it and I thought, well, it's going to be a battlefield, which is fine. But then I try and go for like a rule of three. So with me, all of my bases across all my armies all have something unique and something different. And it's normally, this is probably the most easiest one I've done of all my bases, because I think a base really finishes off the models and the paint job that you've done. I think you should put just as much time and effort into the basing as what you've done with the models. So I'll go with normally like a rule of three. So there'll be three to it as a minimum. But for me, I knew I wanted to do a sort of like a battlefield where you've got grass and then you've got the mud and a few flowers here and there. You've possibly find a Highgarden, but when I sort of looked at it with the green models, I thought that's a lot of green. That is a lot of green on my basis. So I wanted to dull it down a little bit and introduce another colour. So I thought, well, maybe I'll introduce the broken paths and get some grey in there as well, not just with the rocks, but with the actual parts of the model itself within the base, just to break it down a little bit. So what I actually did is I cut up a cereal box and made loads of little squares out of it. I then PVA glued them with Gorilla Glue down in certain places that I wanted them to be, again with the rocks and everything like that. Once I've done all the sand, when I glued them in place to where I wanted them to be, I then sprinkled a bit of very fine sand just to give it some texture, because with the cardboard box, I mean, you could use an empty box from Song of Ice and Fire, but it's very flat. and there wasn't really anything to pick up on it for a highlight or a dry brush on it. So I sprinkled some sand over it, and then just to give it some texture that I can go off. And as I did that, sort of painted around it with the dark brown, and brought that color up. And I was like, oh, okay, so nice brown with it, looks good. I originally painted all the rims as well, an actual lighter color. I think I made them a Yecats bone color, which is sort of like a creamy white color, and it drew too much away because with the contrasts from the colors, I like them to pop and really stand out. I needed a slightly darker base and rim, because when I put the Yecats bone on it, it sort of lost that pop factor, if that makes sense. So I then went back to like a Rhinox hide, brought the color back down to make the green really stand out a bit more, and to break it out so it's not so much green within the grass and the brown. With the dirt, I added in the grey broken up pathways with the rocks, which sort of blended it together a bit better. And I was happy with that. With happy that how that turned out, and then the flowers were just a little bonus for me. I've always wanted to do multicolored flowers, and I thought, well, this is the perfect time to do it. And then that's when, it came up with the idea. I wasn't sure because all this got based. I think I finished on the Wednesday, and we was due to leave on the Friday, so I literally finished it just in time. But yeah, for me, for making decisions, especially with paint colors and the basing, I will think about it for about a month or two before I actually implement something. So in my mind, I'll go through it constantly, going, well, where do I, they're on a battlefield. That's cool, but I can't have loads of green grass because I've got green models. So then I need to bring that down a bit. Then I think about, okay, well, if I bring it right down to just dirt, there's going to be nothing there. So with the sort of like the rule of three I have is, well, I need another third color, which is a grey or a pathway or something, just to break it down. And then that's what gave me the idea for the pathway.
Yeah, I mean that's really. I mean, I've always said that the basing should be good on the miniature because it's the largest surface area that you're going to paint on a single miniature. It's the basing really does set it off, and that is what will draw me in as a judge first and foremost, is to see what people have done with their basing. So yeah, that's definitely paid off, mate. It looks great, and I really like as well how you've always kept this yellow running through the army as well. You've always got this yellow and green going right away through the army.
Well, the thing is, I wanted people to look at it, and although it's a Tyrell army, I still wanted to have that Stannis or the Baratheon yellow in there, which is what originally drew me to the army as well. Was the yellow? I've always wanted to do a yellow army because originally I painted all the cloaks on some of the other models, like the Stag Knights, yellow. Started off painted yellow, and I looked at it. I was like, well, it just looks out of place now for me. I wanted the army to be coherent, but then I just started adding in, well, why don't I keep it the same as Rose Knights, where they've got the green cloaks, but with hints of yellow, or hints of Baratheon still in it. And then there's only one person that, in my mind, should have a yellow cloak, being Baratheon, even though he is a Renly. But we'll come on to that one in a minute. But then, yeah, it's. I wanted to have that, just that hint of yellow to say, yeah, there's still a Baratheon, but it is Renly's side, the better side. So.
Yeah, the more lovely side.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that leaves that's the end of the Tyrell units. We're going to come across some characters in a minute, but it leaves us with the unit that really sort of brought me and James into looking at your army, which is the Stag Knights. Now these are something else, mate. They really are. Just I'm looking. I mean, we've got it on the screen now, so we're looking at. I mean, the checkering on the banner is great. The way that's transferred over to the armor is fantastic. I think the fact that they're green rather than yellow, it makes them stand out a lot more than the normal Stag Knights. And you've got the armor, and we've got the bronze scale mail underneath it as well, the gold face paint. This unit's got everything. I think it's absolutely incredible. I think this is my favourite unit. The Rose Knights are good, but this is my favourite unit that you've done. This is what really sort of brought me in. And I don't know if you remember at the time when you was playing after Best Painted, I had to come and have a quick look at this unit again to see if it was as good as I thought it was.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So with these, I mean, I've always loved the look of the Stag Knights, even though I think Rose Knights are my favourite. I love the Stag's Head, and I love them as a unit. I just think they look so cool, especially with like the hammers and that. They look like they kind of come in for a fight. And when I was painting, I was trying to, again, because I take a bit of a while trying to decide on colour schemes or what I should do to try and tie it in with the other units. The checkered pattern I've always wanted to try, and I thought, well, now's a good time to try it. And I thought, well, let's put it on the banner. I've always wanted to try it, so I actually posted a couple like really rough like paint jobs of of how the banner would be, like one checkered, one of it's where it's got all the four different colours on it, different quarters, to the Bruce group, and a lot of them said, look, I wouldn't go with the checkered pattern. It's too much, like 40k. I thought, well, I've never painted a checkered pattern. I want to give it a go. And I thought, do you know what? I'm just going to do it. I know people are saying go with the yellow cloaks, so I completely went against all my friends' advice. I just went for it. I thought, no, I want it to, in my mind, to to link up with the rest of them. And yeah, I thought, yeah, do you know what? Started doing the banner. Made a few mistakes with how I should have done the banner, but yeah, I thought, yeah, just get stuck in, and that's how I want to look.
We're our worst critics when it comes to painting.
Definitely.
I've done a few of these interviews now where people are telling me, "Oh yeah, this is this," and what I really want to do is, like, no one else notices that shit. No one else gives a fuck. They're more impressed with the fact you've done the checkered pattern.
Yeah, I must admit, because I was looking at mine going, oh, do you know what? Do you see that little splodge bit on his glove? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, yeah, there's the little overspill. Yeah, and yeah, it is, yeah, Owen's worst critic, definitely. But the checkered pattern, yeah, it's the first time I tried it, and unfortunately, what I should have done, now what I know now, is started with the darker colour first, and then sorry, with the lighter colour first, then gone over with the dark green. But I didn't. I started off with the lighter colour first, did several coats to build up that yellow, because I sprayed in black. And then I started sketching in all the green. But I think next time I'd do it the other way. The yellow, sorry. I'll start doing it the other way. So, because it's hard to bring out that yellow again, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100% it does. So just on like some of the scale mail stuff. So, I mean, look at it now; it's a bit hard to see it, but that's like a really nice dark bronze color, right?
Yeah. So yeah. Well, so with that bronze color, I actually I have done that color before. So with that was the Belfast Gold on the bronze, and then I did dull it down a little bit more with some. I think it was was it Aqua Earth Shade? I think it was, or a Flesh Shade again. Just brought it down. I didn't want it to sort of shine too much, being a bronze. Brought it back up again with another Balthasar Gold, and then if I remember correctly, I highlighted it with Yecats bronze, and then I just done a little bit of that, and just to bring it out a bit better.
Again, mate, it's actually incredible looking unit, mate. It just, it's really did draw me in as one of the better units on the day.
Thank you.
Even down to things like the antlers, it really makes your unit pop out.
The antlers, I mean, because I collect Soul Blight, I've painted plenty of skellies. It's exactly the same way as what I do with the skeletons. Start off with a Xandru dust base. Then I'll dial that down again with a shade, with the Rakeland Flesh Shade again. Bring it right down, but I do a quite heavy shade on that one with the oil, and then I'll bring it back up again with a Xandru dust. Then highlight it again, bring in just small brush strokes down with the Shamsi bone, and then a Screaming Skull to finish on the ends. That's how I sort of do the antlers, really. But yeah, this unit probably took the longest out of all of them. Again, being the world's slowest painter, that checkered flag took me ages, because I was learning as I was doing it, and it took me bloody ages.
Also, is the how long is it sort of taken to do like one unit?
So normally, depends on how long I get to paint, but probably about a month.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, yeah, realistically, I do try. Sometimes I'll get bored. I hate to say it, but if it's the same unit, If I'm painting 2 units of the same, and if I'm doing like just constantly the same thing, I like to try and change it up a bit. So what I like to do is every unit I paint, I will paint a hero.
Yeah.
And that breaks it down for me because I love painting like the individual heroes. That for me. So when I paint a unit, I've rewarded myself with a hero to paint. But yeah, normally they take me about a month. If I'm honest, I would love to paint more, but as life gets in the way, you can't.
Hopefully, mate, next year we're going to see you at the UK Nationals with a painted Greyjoy army. And I've got faith in you.
Do you know, I've already been discussing colours with a pal of mine, and I've got some ideas already in my head, and I definitely want to try something. I've managed to try something on one spear before many moons ago, a few years back, and I think I want to try that for the whole army and see how it turns out.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Right, so that's all units done. As I say, there wasn't a great amount of units because you run what you had painted, which is more than fair because that's one your best painted. So that in itself was a tactic.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's go through characters then. So I'll put up on screen now. We've got the spinning characters, and I'll stop on each one and we'll talk about it and I'll move on so that way it isn't a constantly spinning. First up on screen, I'm going to chuck up Margaery Tyrell. Well, I bought a job lot for my friend Daryl from Northern Realms Gaming, and he had quite a lot of Tyrell stuff in there. Like the other side of the coin to yourself, when I collected Baratheons, Stannis was one of the lowest ranked commanders in the game, so I bought it just to give myself a challenge with Stannis. But as a result, I sold off all the Tyrell stuff. I've got it now, and I've actually had a chance to look at some of his miniatures. And Margaery is a really, really understated sculpt. When you actually look at her and sort of look at some of the details on the skirt and around her cloak and her hair, it's really good. And again, this is something that I'd obviously just bought that prior to UK Nationals. Then obviously seeing your army, I'm looking and thinking, yeah, it really is a nice miniature. So
do you know what? I really enjoy painting her as well. Like you say, the cloth on it with the nice little highlights that are around it, and like where the arms come down, you've got several layers of clothing. And to be honest with you, it was just a joy to paint. It was simple enough, but it's got enough detail in it to actually have fun with it.
Yeah, it looks amazing, and I really like how you've really brought that base into the NCUs as well. I mean, without it looking like she's standing at the edge of the battlefield, like she could be walking in Highgarden with the flowers around her. So that's really done you credit there as well.
Yeah, right. Well, that's the theme I was going with. So 2 of my NCUs, obviously, they won't ever see battle, but I was trying to get it to a theme where they're actually showing like they're walking through Highgarden with the flowers either side, rather than being on the battlefield itself.
Nice as summer.
Yeah, exactly that.
Awesome. And so when you paint characters, do you reference the card art, or do you just sort of let your mind take control and you do what you want to do?
I do. So I look at the box art itself. Then from the box art, I will look on the card art. And then from there, I'll take loads of little bits that I like and dislike, and I go, right, okay, I don't really fancy that. I like the look of that. So then I'll add them all together, and then I'd start painting, and then I'd look at the model and go, well, that works, I'll keep it, or that doesn't work, I'll change it. But I will look at the box art normally first, and then go on to the card art, because sometimes there's sort of a slight difference, really. But then once I've made my mind up, I'll normally stick with it. Just to get it done and dusted. But that was certainly one from the box. But I wanted more green in it again, because although she's got a nice brighter or fairer green, I did start off with the fairer green. I can't remember what colours I used, but it just didn't fit for me. So I changed it back to the original green that I was doing, just to make it all sit in nicely with the army.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing you can say about your army, mate, is nothing else. It is very coherent. It's all part of the same army, and it looked really nice laid out as an army as well. I'll chuck up a picture at the end of our chat so people can see how it looks all together if they haven't seen it on Facebook. But yeah, I mean, it's really nice. Yeah, cool. Okay, so then next up, we're gonna get Renly Baratheon, Lord Paramount, right?
Yep, that's right.
Again, it's a really, really, really nice model. Obviously, we know he's technically Guyard Tyrell. Is that part of the reason you took him?
The reason why I took him is because he was, at the time, he was one of my favourite looking heroes. I just love the simplicity of it. When I was looking at the box art, obviously he's got a nice, like a shiny green tint to his armour. Oh, I think it's on the card. And I really liked it, so I picked the model up and I was like, "Oh, out of all the three Renlys, that at the moment that's my favourite one. That's the one that's sticking out to me. That's the one I want to sort of play." And yeah, I just looked at it. I was like, "That's what I'm painting." And as a commander, that's what I'm playing. So for me, it was a pretty simple choice, to be honest. I did struggle with some of the armor myself. At one point, I made it too shiny, where it looked too glossy for me. So I had to bring that shine back down. Because it looked like it was just too much like hard coat on it. So I used a Lamian medium to bring it down a bit, to actually get the armor texture rather than just having it completely shine.
So with the armor, there is actually green tinted. So, well, as far as I can tell, it's green tinted. It might be the whole army's so green. I'm now seeing everything as green, but
Yeah, so I painted the armor as normal. Start off with the black and then brought it up with the silvers and all the metal colors. And then it's basically a load of washing. So with this one, I started off with a Beltan green. And I sort of, when I applied it, it was very much like a punch different from the other colours. So with that, I did dull it down with I mixed it in with a bit of non-oil and camo shade as well. So I applied several coats until I was happy with what the colour was itself. But once I started blending those three into it, it sort of brought it back a little bit, rather than being a very vibrant, in-your-face green. It didn't look like armor to me. And then I managed to dull it down. It did still look shiny, so again, I'll put the Lamia median over it just to bring it down a bit more.
I quite like how, as a character, he's quite. Again, I'm going to use the word understated because he doesn't really sort of, you expect the Renly side to be quite, long flowing hair and all the pose and stuff. I quite like how he's more. Well, we know why he's got the full suit of armor on because of who he is underneath it. But it's a great it's a great model, mate. You've done it a lot of credit. It looks great.
Thank you.
Was that on the back of the Stag Knights?
He was, yeah. So when I painted the Stag Knights, I was like, I'm going to treat myself to a character. I want to play him within the army. I love the model itself. Again, because of all the armor and with the stag's head on it, with his helmet. And I was like, yeah, this is my little treat. And and it was a bit tricky to try and get the color, the green exactly I want. It was loads of shades constantly, without trying to drown it. It was very thin shades every time. But yeah, then I was pretty happy with the color. Brought the shine down and sort of gave it a highlight. So, but yeah, I was very happy with how it turned out.
And next up, we have your Thornwatch Sentinel. So this is the Thornwatch Sentinel from the Thornwatch box. It's nice. I really like the miniature because of the motion in the miniature itself as well.
Yeah.
But you've really got that bright green going again, and I keep meaning to talk about it, but I keep forgetting. But the red sword grip as well, like that is how I personally paint a lot of my sword grips. Is that really dark red? I think it really makes the miniature pop when you're doing that sort of stuff. So, I mean, I didn't tell you to do that, but I'm happy to take credit for it. But yeah, it's really nice.
Thank you, mate. So it's probably the same method. So with that, again, I love the red on the grip itself, and again, it's just another different color that just makes it a little detail stand out a bit better, rather than just being like a grey or a black or anything like that. It just makes it stand out for me. It's a nice little touch to a model. I think I started off with this one on I think it was a Mephiston red, and then again I brought it down with a very very small brush of and I used none oil again just to get in the crevices. Brought it back up again with a Mephiston red, and then I highlighted it with I think it's an Evil Skulls. I think it's a red oil from Citadel. Yeah, just to hit on all the highlighted edges. But for me, like again for swords, I love that red. I think it's on every one of my heroes. Again, it's just a nice detail for me to pick out, and I don't know why, but I enjoy doing it as well.
For me, it really helps make that pop between the hand, whether it's a gauntlet or whether it's a glove, whether it's just a fleshy hand. That dark red always really, I don't know, it really looks nice. I've always just felt it just works. Whether that's a Space Marine or a Tyrell or a Targaryen, it worked well for sore grips.
As you said, then the Space Marine, years and years ago when I was a kid, I used to collect Blood Angels, but that's exactly how I did all my swords back then, and I've kept it on, even though I lost the hobby for a little bit. I've done it ever since I've been painting from early on, and for me, it's stuck with me, and I just love the look of it.
Your army's predominantly green and yellow, but you do have quite a lot of this bone in there as well as like a little accent colour underneath. We see in the background here, we can see Olenna's obviously got it as like a headscarf thing, but on this miniature, you've got it on the legs. Was a choice that? Was that because it's on the box art, or was that to accent the greens? Or
so it's a bit of both actually. So it was on the box art as a cloth, and I wasn't sure how to do this type of cloth really by getting it the right colour again to accent with the green. But I started off the same sort of way that I do my skeletons. But I started off with a tone higher. So rather than starting off with a Xandri Dust, I started off with a Ushabti Bone. And then with the Ushabti Bone, what I used to do was just absolutely smother it with nun oil. And then I'd have to pick out the Ushabti Bone again. But this time, I used the Ushabti Bone, and I just went into all the crevices with the nun oil, started off lighter, and then if I wasn't happy, again, went in with another coat when it was dry. Brought it back up, and then with the highlight, I used a Screaming Skull. I was tempted to use like a white or a brighter cream. One, I didn't have any in my paint selection at the moment because I got half it packed away. And two, for me, that was sort of enough. I thought if I bring it up too much, may take away a little bit from the green. I'm not too sure, but for me, that was enough. I thought the Screaming Coal was a nice touch to it, which gave it the cloth. To me, it looked like cloth.
Yeah, no, it looks great, mate. It's great. Also, like how weathered the brown looks, like the leather on the belt and on the quiver as well. That's a really nice little touch.
Thank you. Yeah, as again on the actual crossbow and it's the first time I've tried cross hatching. I like the technique, to be honest. That was nice. And on the quivers and that, thank you. If I remember correctly, I can't remember what browns I used for that. I think it was more of like a skag brown, I think, in the end. And then again, brought it up with the highlight and the colours. Pretty simple techniques, to be honest. Same with the belts. I just made sure that I didn't overfill it with nun oil. I just, in the crevice in the middle, a little tiny bit of nun oil, and then kept the same colour, and then brought it out again with the highlight on the outside.
Yeah, well, it's really good. So next up we have your Stag Knight Noble. Now, there's not much we can say about this that isn't really applicable from our conversation about the Stag Knights, because he's literally, he is what he is. He's the character from that box. But how did you approach miniature? Was it just a case of doing it the same way as you've done your Stag Knights? Was there anything you wanted to sort of achieve differently with this miniature?
I did approach it exactly the same as the Stag Knights, because I did want him to fit in with the unit. So it was pretty much the same. But I wanted to make sure, because I like the pose of the model itself, the shoulder pad itself was for some reason a bit more trickier, because it's got a few more divots in this shoulder pad than some of the others. I don't know if it's like a bit of a misprint or what, but it was certainly trickier, and I messed it up a few times. So I had to go back over that again. I think it was about 4 times. But yeah, because it kept splodging out and then going into the recesses too much, and I was like, oh. But yeah, it's exactly the same as I did with the Stag Knights. And he was actually a mistake. I wasn't meant to paint him.
You weren't brave enough to do the shoulder pad under the hammer, then?
No, I wasn't brave enough. Because it's exactly that. I thought, wow, do you know what? It's got to be hidden. Why would I want something hidden?
Yeah, exactly.
No,
yeah.
It definitely bowled out on it.
Also, well, he's obviously it's a choice by him. He doesn't want to paint that. He doesn't want to paint that shoulder pad because that's where he rests his hammer. So he doesn't want to chip the paint, right?
Scratch it. That's it. It's just scratches.
Yeah. That's a hammer rest. That's not a shoulder pad.
That's it.
Awesome. Okay, cool. And then we have Guyard Morrigen. I'm probably going to eat my words here, but what colour is he in the Rainbow Guard? Is he green? Guard the green.
No.
He isn't he?
Oh, yes, he is green. Yeah, 100%. So his armour is green and everything like that. But in the Rainbow Guard, he has got a rainbow cape. Yeah, I tried the rainbow cape again. So I being inside, I looked at the box art again. I was like, okay, he's got rainbow cape. That's fine. I started doing it. And I couldn't quite get the colours right, and I didn't like the look personally of the rainbow cape. I was like, okay, it's not for me. I'll change it. So I was thinking, well, what colour could I do? Could I do a different colour green? Tried a different colour green. Didn't work. So I brought that back up again. And I was like, I'm just going to have to keep the same colour as sort of the rest of it to blend in a bit better. But yeah, I did attempt the rainbow cape. I know, unfortunately, it's not exactly the law, but it's I didn't like the look of it at all.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. The rainbow, because the Warrior Sons have got the rainbow cloaks as well, and it is hard to do that and make that look, make it look crisp. Like I definitely, because it's not. I'm, I've got these guys now. I've got these guys because I've got the Renly side, so I've got the Rainbow Guard, and when I come around to paint them, I'm going to do what you've done. I'm going to paint the cloaks in the colour of. Well, I don't know if you've done it for all of them, but this you have this one at least. Is do the cloaks in the colour of them. So Brienne's cape will be blue, Guards will be green.
Exactly what I've done. I've got a Brienne that I did a tester on, and she's got a blue cape. Like you said, unless I don't think I'm that good at painting just yet, where I can't make it crisp enough. I think you sort of hit the nail on the head there. But yeah, it's got to be crisp, and I just couldn't make it work personally.
I've yet to see it done in a way that I think, perfect. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's lots of good painters in the community that have done it that I think, it's good. It's good, but it's. I don't think I could do it. I don't think that I'd be able to do rainbow cloaks. I think because it all goes back to what you were talking about at the beginning of this interview, is that I like my stuff to look realistic. And although they may well go to war wearing rainbow cloaks, by the time they actually get to the point in the battle that I'm painting, they'd be dirty, ripped, covered in blood. Do you know what I mean? So maybe that might work. Maybe I might try that. Maybe do the rainbow cloaks, but maybe try and really dull it down so it's nowhere near as bright as it's shown on the box art.
Yeah,
I think it's just it's too many colours in one place. It just ends up it just looks messy, I think.
Yeah, I must admit. No, I agree with you there. Again, if you're going to do it, you've got to do it right. And I've seen one of my friends attempt a similar design, and he's done a good job, but it's not. I wouldn't personally have it. And like you say, if you dulled it down, like you say you would do, give it a dull down and make it look like it's a bit worn, torn. That may do the trick.
He's went for a really nice dark armor with like the gold stuff. And what I really like about the Rainbow Guard is all these little bits on the shields and the really ornate armor. So what made you go for a darker armor rather than the gleaming armor he's got in the artwork?
So I didn't want him to look the same as Renly, to be honest. I looked at it. I know he's got gleaming armor. I didn't quite have the right green that I liked. I did try a couple. I did it the same as Renly. I thought, I can't have it the same as Renly, surely, because Renly should be standing out. So I actually purely used once I did all the all the metal parts of it. I actually just used the camo shade. Brought it right down. Used several coats until I was happy with the color. I think it's about 6 or 7 light coats in the end. Maybe a few more. But yeah, I just wanted it slightly different to Renly's, so you could tell the difference, if that makes sense. They're not going to have exactly the same armor on the battlefield, so I needed to use a different color. And I didn't want it to stand out as much as Renly's neither, especially where I had them or can use them in the same force. So with that, I used the camo shade rather than try to mix up the greens. And then again, highlight it with the silver again on all the edges.
I really like because with his armor, you've got that's really nice dark armor in like same sort of dark shade to the Wardens. I really like how you've got even here, like we look at the bottom of the greave at the bottom of the over the thigh. It looks like at the bottom it's been worn away and chipped and damaged during the battle. I really like that. It's a really nice style.
Cheers, man. Thank you. I must admit, out of both of them, I think this is one of my favourite armors that I've done. And I'd certainly use that dulled down, sort of chipped away look again. I think, especially on the armor, because they have got naturally a few like cuts, splints, and grazes within their armor and chips. And I think making it look more war torn, like you say, bring out that the more dirtier look, the more grind down. Yes, they've been in battle. Battle look. So I'd definitely go with that again. I think, to be honest,
I'll definitely think you should, mate. It looks great. So next up we have Cortnay Penrose. You've done something different here. So you've gone for more of the creams on the undergarments and the yellows, with just that green cloak to bring it together with your army. A nice ginger beard, because everybody loves a nice ginger beard.
That's right. You gotta have your token ginger.
Nice. It's as linked to you as well. Cortnay empowers people, and ginger people empower people. Yep. So that's all good. So let's talk about a couple of things here. So one, let's talk about your choice of colours. That's first and foremost.
So yeah, I know on his card and that he's got a brown leather and a brown cloak. But I looked at it and I was like, I don't want to do brown. If he was a neutral character, I'll definitely stick to more the browns and natural colours that they normally have. But because where he was part of Renly, I thought he needs to look part of the army again. So I thought I did originally paint him with a yellow cloak, didn't like it, so I brought it back to the green. And then I was like, well, I really like the look with what I did with the Rose Knights, where they've got the sort of cloth look underneath for the clothing. That sort of made me decide that again. I thought, okay, I really like that, how I did that. I'm going to keep to that. And then I looked at it. I was debating on the yellow, so I tried brown first, and I was like, not too sure about the brown, because he's got brown leather straps on it. I was like, does it just look like a normal strap? I was like, no. So I thought, well, what's the other colour that I've got within the army? Is the yellow. I thought, let's introduce a little bit of yellow just to make him stand out a little bit more, rather than just on the box art where he is just the browns on there. So I thought, okay, we'll go with the yellow. Started off with a bit of yellow. So okay, that works for me. So I kept with it, really.
I love how you limited your palette. That's something that I've done on armies before. I'll go and paint an army and I'll limit myself to the palette, and I really like it. Does have a really nice effect of making everything look like it's part of the same force.
Yeah, because normally when I'm painting, I don't normally limit myself to a palette. I normally just pick whatever I like and then just use it. But where I do have half of my paint set, unfortunately packed away at the moment, I sort of was limited anyway. And I must admit, it made me paint a lot more efficient than just having loads of colours scattered about. I knew what colours I was using. I knew what colour I was going to be doing the cloaks. What yellow colour I had, whether it's the edging on it or a cloak itself. So I'll definitely recommend having a set of colours, especially for an army, because it does bring it all together with the same colour. But yeah, it's the first time I've done that, and I'll definitely be doing it for future projects. It just made it so much more easier, if I'm honest. And with him as well, the best part about painting this model was the ginger beard, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Generally, I've never painted orange, and I literally use one colour. So with this one, all I used was a Fire Dragon Bright, which again is a Citadel paint.
Yeah.
So I used that, dulled it down, picked out all the nice little highlights on the beards, and yeah, I was really happy about how that one turned out.
Yeah, mate, well, you should be. It's really nice.
For some reason, it was just a beard.
I could have an army of beards. It's just secretly a dwarf player, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
The other thing I always pick up with you on this is the skin on the miniature itself, because it's a really nice smooth skin. Obviously, he's bald, but I mean, it's a really nice. All the transitions between the highlights are nice and smooth. What's your trick to painting flesh?
I'll be honest with you, it was really bringing down and watering down the colours. So I think I started off with a standard sort of a Bugman's Glow. I generally like starting that with anyway, because I've painted ogres before. And then as I brought up the colours with more lighter tones, literally as simple as it sounds, I was just leaving out the recesses every time. But I was making sure that my paint was quite runny, to be honest. But I had the smallest amount on each brush. Painting it with a smaller brush, yeah, it took a little bit longer with a smaller brush, but it gave me the more smoother effect. with that. But yeah, it was literally watering down my colours properly, rather than just dabbing a bit of water on it like I used to do. Actually using the Lamy medium to water it down. I find it just made it a bit more smoother. And not using as much on the brush as well, really taking a lot of it off. Just dabbing it with the tip. And then sorry, and then putting it back on to the bottle.
Do you use lime medium to walk down all your paints, or is that just for this you use it?
So just literally just use it for the skin color. But I did use quite a lot of these models. I've used water until I dug out. It was annoying me a little bit because some of the consistency was a bit on and off. So then I dug in my box and pulled out a Lamy medium. I was like, that made it a bit more smoother for me to use. Especially with him, because I'll be honest with you, he's my favourite NCU. I just love him, and I really want to try him next as a commander.
Nice.
But yeah, he's my favourite NCU out of all of them, I think, apart from Lady Olenna as well. Yeah, he just for me, he's just one of my favourites.
Okay, cool. Well, let's talk about Lady Olenna, because this is another one. It's another sculpt that I'd never really paid much attention to because not having the Renly boxes. But one, I think she looks really good. She looks, considering how powerful she is on that NCU board, she looks really calm, chilled, like it's basically Minan, isn't it? But instead of making me cheese and toast, she's turned off NCUs, which is
she makes the cheese on toast after.
exactly that. Yeah, but yeah, man, it's really nice. I really like. Again, it's all tied in together. There seems to be more creams on this model. I don't know if that was a choice you made or what, but that's all really nice. That brings her down a little bit to look like the head of the house a bit more. Obviously, she's not. Thingy is, but her son is. But yeah, but she's definitely the don behind the family.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, you've utilised these flowers really well again, just to make it look like Highgarden. Ties it in with the army. It's absolutely perfect, mate. Do you want to sort of talk us through your painting on this one?
Yeah, again, so I basically use the same colours all over to keep it all in the same sync. When I looked at the box art and that for this one, or the card art, she does have the bit of cream in it and the green. I wanted to make the cream a bit more standout-ish rather than doing the headdress in a green, as well as the dress itself. I just thought I can't just have too much green because it'd be overpowering. So I wanted to definitely break it down a bit, so the different layers of the undergarments that she's got coming through, sort of thing. That to me had to be cream to break it down for the green on the actual dress itself. And then the headdress again. If I did paint it green, it was going to be too much green on the model for me, and then it wouldn't really have a sort of place, if that makes sense. It would have just been overpowering, and I thought if I bring in the cream for the headdress as well, that will give it a nice balance.
Yeah, it looks great. It does look good.
She's the only one as well with. I think I finished on because I wanted to make her look a bit more pale than the rest. I think I've finished with a witch flesh or something on her skin just to make her look a bit more pale. And I'm really happy with how she came out as well with the clothing. It's really nice to pick out the highlights on her with the clothing. And I really enjoyed painting her as well.
So yeah, that's Olenna, man. So next up we've got Eldon Estermont. I think it's important for people to look as it sort of comes around to look at the sword scabbard, because I like the way you've made that again look like that really nice weathered leather. You've got that red sword handle again, that red sword grip again. This is a model that again I paid no attention to. He's always been quite powerful in the game, especially during the Season 4 update and the 2021 update. Sorry. When he got hardened, and as an NCU, isn't he like Venerable Knight or something like that?
I believe it is, yeah. I think you're right, Venerable Knight.
And I think you've done a really good job of portraying that as well. That older sort of knight, leading armies to battle. I think you've done a great job in this. It looks like you've kept quite close to the artwork again with him. So, do you want to talk us through this paint job? Because it's the last model we're going to look at of yours, and I think it's a nice model to end on because obviously it's one of your commanders, and you've done a superb paint job. It's probably one of my most favourite miniatures that you've painted in this army.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So again, he was a joy to paint. With the white hair, normally I've done like grey hair or slight tints. I actually took the time with this one with a small paintbrush to actually get within the small crevices rather than just flooding it with none oil. I actually took a small paintbrush, actually dialed it down a little bit, and made it ever so light, because normally with the way I used to paint was just smear it with none oil, and then try and bring the colours up again. But you're sort of going over another step that you don't need to take with painting. So with that, if you just hit the crevices a bit, nice and lightly a few times, you'll get what you need to achieve. And the face on this for me was the best part of the model. I normally struggle with faces and things like that, but with this one, it was nice to do the beard and the tash. It just all stood out nicely, and it's just a tiny bit of paint. With his one, I did darken his skin down a little bit, because I wanted to give him that sort of like battle hardened look, like he's been there, he's done it, sort of thing. So his was slightly darker, and all that was I added in a bit of Skag Brown to the final layer, only a tiny amount, just to give the top highlight, but then just keep it down a little bit better.
Yeah, and you've really achieved that, because that's one of the things I really like about him. He looks like quite a gaunt older man. He's going to war now, and his traits aren't in his fighting. His skills are in generalship, and I really like that how you portrayed that as part of this miniature. And it looks like you've gone for this green tinged armor again. Was that a choice?
That was a choice. Yeah. So within the card art, I know he's got a green tint to his armor. And with this one, so on this one, I did use a lot of Baltan green. I didn't dull it down as much and add in the camo shade or the none oil as much as Renly's, and certainly not as deep as Guyard Morrigen's. But I wanted to keep it to the green, and keep it some to the art itself. And yeah, again, I try not to make it too dark, but then again, not as stand out as Renly's. With this one, it's a bit more difficult, because this one really, because it hasn't got a lot of crevices or within his front breastplate. There was a really big shine on it. So it did take a few coats. I think it's about 3 or 4 coats of Lamian medium just to bring it down again. But yeah, I was happy with how this one came out, to be honest.
Yeah, it's really good, mate. It's really good. So just look at the artwork now, mate. He's obviously got a yellow cloak. Is that just something he just wasn't interested in doing? Just thought it detracted too much away from the miniature?
Yeah, so it was because I wanted Renly, the only one to have the. By this time, I already painted up Renly. I wanted him to have the only one being a Baratheon with a yellow cloak. I did look at it and I thought, do I look at a mustard colour? Maybe bring the yellow down a bit, make it a bit more dull. But I looked at it and I thought, well, I've got every other NCU so far and commander that's not Baratheon, i.e. Renly Baratheon, as a green. So I thought I'll keep with the theme with that. I did toy about going back to the mustard colour. But I sort of kept the decision. I thought, no, I'll be brave and keep to the green, really. Again, because I solely wanted Renly just to have the yellow, the pure yellow cloak.
Okay, nice. Okay, well that's us done. Looking at your armies from UK Nationals. What's the plan next then? Is it the Greyjoys or is it Stannis? What do you think?
So I've got the Welsh GT in March. I've got a couple of ideas where I do want to run Cortnay Penrose, so I'm going to try my best to paint up in time a couple more units of Baratheons, and then I'm going to see what Santa brings. And I think after our conversation, I've really liked the look of some of the models in the Greyjoys. And I've already started sort of making plans. So I think in the future you are going to see me with an army of Greyjoys.
And a handful of pillage tokens.
That's right. Yeah.
Awesome.
I think one of the characters for me on there is it Victorian Greyjoy?
Yeah.
Oh, what a beautiful model! I'm just dying to paint that one up. So I think that sealed the deal for me.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, all the Greyjoy characters are just one of my favourite characters for much the same reasons that we've spoken about Eldon. Is Balon Greyjoy. Like, I loved how he just looks like he just doesn't give a f. He's just standing there, whether he's a commander into you, he's literally standing there, hand on his sword, looking off into the distance. You know, that's a man that knows he's blessed by the drowned god, and whatever happens.
That's it. If he is a fan, he's like, yeah, so what? Okay,
great. Yeah, again, a shout out to the Welsh GT. That has just sold out a couple of days ago. So that's now fully sold out. There's a waiting list to join that. So that's a massive shout out to Duke's Gaming, and Luke and Kieran have done an amazing job pushing it out for another year. Are you going to the Southern GT?
Not too sure yet, but I will try. I know I've got a few offers for some more, and I certainly want to go to a lot more than what I do now because the atmosphere is awesome as well. Such friendly people. Whether you're on the top table or bottom table, everyone wants to chat with you, and no one's rude, and it's a really nice place to be. So I'll definitely be doing a few more tournaments, certainly next year.
Perfect, mate. Perfect. Yeah, we've got busy. We've got busy calendar next year, so we'll see us some more and some of our tournaments. But okay, man. Well, cheers so much for your time, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
No, thank you very much for having me. Absolutely, thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're absolutely welcome. It was great talking to you on the day. It was great sort of learn a little bit about the way you approach painting and your plans going forward. And meeting some of the people from your club, that was great. But yeah, thank you so much from myself and the listeners for coming on to and talking us about the way you paint this Baratheon army. It is a beautifully painted Baratheon army. So if you are going to Welsh GT or you do see Collin moseying around with his Baratheons, do take a closer look, because I had to take a closer look because of how nice they were. And I do recommend getting up close and personal with them. Is there anything you'd like to add then before we sign off?
No, just again, even if you think that you're not going to win the best painted, it's always good to get something on the board and just enjoy it, really. Again, it certainly sparked my painting enthusiasm again. And now I really do want to get things finished for the next one.
Awesome. That's what we like to hear. Okay, man. Right, well, you enjoy the rest of your evening, mate, and I'll see you about soon, yeah?
See you soon, my mate, and thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate that.
No problem, mate. You're very welcome. You take care. Bye.
Take care, my mate. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So that's a wrap for our best painted episode for UK Nationals 2024. Again, a massive thank you to Collin for coming on and talking to me for over an hour about his army, about the way he paints, his concept, the way he approaches it. It's really great to hear, and I love talking with other painters and hobbyists about the way they paint their army. It's a whole new game in itself. And a massive thank you to you guys for tuning in, for spending an hour with us while we talk over it. This is the third of our Hobby Hangout series. There'll be more to come. Please do check out some of our other events. We are going to be pushing events quite big next year. The Yecats team are going to be pushing out potentially one event per month. The first is obviously the Blood over Highgarden in January next year. There are still tickets for that. We've got some cool old school names that have just bought tickets. We've got some newer names there, which is exactly what we want. We're looking to build the community. So if you're sitting on the fence, please do check out these events. We give attendance prizes. If you turn up, you're going to get bang for your buck, regardless of the games, regardless of your position in the tournament. And this is all about meeting new players and giving you the best start into this game you can, and just open your eyes to what a great game this is. We've also got the Battle of the Chain Stag 2, Vengeance of the South, which is in Northamptonshire, and Battlefield Hobbies in Daventry. So please do come and check that one out. There's still tickets available for that. This one sold out quite quickly last time. We expected to sell out quite quickly again, so do check that out to get tickets. I'll put a link in the description below. And a massive shout out to all the other TOs across the country running events. We've got Brad Blackburn, the Wardens of the South, running their Joy to the Realm in December, and the Southern GT in, I believe it's February next year. Big shout out to the Welsh GT. And yeah, Leonidas Games, all the other guys that are running great tournaments all over the UK. please get yourself out, attend these tournaments. It is a great community. I wouldn't have it any other way, and to be honest with you, the community is what keeps this game together, and it's a pleasure to be part of. But again, thank you for your time. Please do like, share and subscribe the video and the channel. With your help we can obviously grow our channel and keep producing content, and keep releasing Song of Ice and Fire material. So take care, I will speak to you soon.